I think you could say that the Minnesota Vikings are the most complete team in the conference on both sides of the ball. I'll get into J.J. McCarthy and what I thought of his preseason debut. But I do want to talk about just this team as a whole. The 2025 Minnesota Vikings remind me a lot of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles. And what do I mean by that? Going into that 2022 season, the only question that the Eagles had was, do they have a legitimate starting quarterback? And Jalen Hurts answered that question in that season. He became a legitimate starting quarterback. That's the only question I have about the Minnesota Vikings, because when you look at this team, they are flat out loaded, right? Like, they have the two receivers on the outside. They drastically improved their offensive line. They added Kelly, the center. They added Donovan Jackson, Will Fries. Their interior is going to be much better than it was last year. They already have Christian Darrisaw. They already have O'Neal. Their offensive line has the potential to be one of the very best in football. They improved on their defensive line. I really like their pass rush that they have there with Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel. I'm a big fan of what this football team has, right? So if they can get above average quarterback play, they have the type of talent with the type of coaching staff, because this is one of the best coach teams in football, to where you can say, if this guy plays above average, or if he is just a good quarterback, this team has a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. And that was ultimately the Vikings' vision when they moved on from Sam Darnold. They said, hey, we're not going to pay Sam Darnold the big money that he wants to get paid. We drafted a quarterback in the first round last year. We're going to stick with that quarterback, and we're going to build around that quarterback. And so far, it looks like, this quarterback could potentially be the type of quarterback that they need to get them to the Super Bowl, because I was pretty impressed with J.J. McCarthy in week 1 of the preseason. Just going over his tape, I thought when you look at the pros, he was really successful when he was targeting Jordan Addison. He threw the ball with good anticipation. He can obviously make plays out of structure. We saw that at Michigan. I think that was really his strength coming out of Michigan. He doesn't feel pressure, and that was what I was very impressed with. He stays in the pocket till the very last moment. There was a play action that they had, and they ran a deep out to Jordan Addison, and he just stayed in the pocket, waited till the very last moment. Pass rush was coming, set his feet, delivered the ball down the field, and he found Jordan Addison. That was a very nice throw. He does a really good job staying on schedule, and that's what I wanted to see from J.J. McCarthy, because the play designs are there. The concepts are there. Can you stay on schedule? Can you stay within structure with the Kevin O'Connell offense? And if he could do that, if he can make the right reads, get the ball where it needs to be, he's going to be a good quarterback, because that's the type of play caller, play designer, and play sequencer that Kevin O'Connell is. He's going to put this young man in a position to succeed and be very successful. He has some juice in his arm. He really does. The velocity he delivers the ball with, it's impressive. But I do think that, unlike quarterbacks that just deliver the ball with a lot of velocity, I do think that he has some nice touch on his throws. So that was, impressive to see. I thought he did a good job getting the ball out of his hands, right? Back foot, hit that third or fifth step in the drop. Ball was out of his hands. Decisive with his, decision-making. And so some cons, he overthrew a receiver on a post route. We didn't get to see him throw the ball down the field a lot. It's a lot of short to intermediate routes, but I do think that was intentional. I think Kevin O'Connell wants to get this young man in a rhythm and get him, processing, doing the things that he needs to do. And he also fumbled a snap as well. So that is, something that I had to put in the con section. But that's the key right there. That is the key. J.J. McCarthy is the key for the Minnesota Vikings. He has an incredible situation. And if he can just, again, like I said, stay on schedule with this offense, not do too much, right? Because we saw Jalen Hurts last year with the Eagles. He didn't have to do that much. But the thing is, he didn't put his team in bad positions. Sometimes he did. That playoff game against the Rams, he put his team in a lot of bad situations. JJ McCarthy has to do the same thing. Stay ahead of the sticks. When a play breaks down, you can make plays out of structure. Go ahead and do that, right? Stay on schedule. And this young man is going to have a very successful season and career if he just continues on this development path with Kevin O'Connell. Because when you look at the teams in the conference, I think you could say that the Minnesota Vikings are the most complete team in the conference on both sides of the ball, right? I think the reason why you would put the Eagles and the Rams above the Minnesota Vikings in the pecking order of contenders in the NFC is just because you feel better about the quarterbacks on those teams. You've seen both of those quarterbacks with the teams that they're on win the Super Bowl, right? So that's why you feel a little better about those teams than you do the Minnesota Vikings. I'm a big fan of Brian Flores, and I think that, man, this season, especially with the personnel that they were able to bring in, I think that they're going to be even more successful on defense than they were last year. I think that on offense, adding Jordan Mason with Aaron Jones, I think that's a nice 1-2 punch. Again, the offensive line, I think, is going to be improved from last year. I think they're going to be better running the football. And because of the fact that they're going to be better running the football, I think they're going to do even more in play action than they did last year. And I just think that overall, when you look at this team, I think that, yeah, they are one of those teams that if JJ McCarthy can just play good football, they're a team to me that are up there with, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Eagles, the Rams as Super Bowl contenders. But the reason why I just don't feel confident saying that right now is just because I don't know what we're going to get out of JJ McCarthy. And it's great that, he played well in the preseason game the other day. That is great. But overall, he has to, transition that to the regular season. And if he's able to transition that to the regular season, this team's going to be a big time problem.